I was, I was just vaguely curious. Yeah, that's good. Hey, Jim, can they put delegates on the second row there?
Yes, they're supposed to put down, they can put down on the second. Yes. They didn't last night. Who's Cave City? Sing music.
Morning, Coach.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good to see you. Fine. Everything under control?
Oh yeah, we're good.
That's good. Are you going to be taking charge this morning?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
That's cool. What all are you going to do?
Um,
Just
um,
this.
this morning I'll just be introducing you for the talk, names and faces talk, I assume.
Yes.
Yep. I still remember that one. Plus, I keep hearing it every year. So
Does it help you?
yeah, it helps a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So do you have a bio or something on me? Or?
This is something that if you want to add anything or
No,
take away anything, this is something that Judge McKenzie typed up. Me and him both kind of sat there.
Wow. Okay.
Well, everything good?
That's perfect. Man, that's beyond whatever.
Cool.
So your official title now is not Chief Justice. I guess you're still Chief Justice, though, right?
I guess former. You know.
Yeah. Well, they don't have a new one until
Yeah.
what, Thursday? So you may be the man.
Maybe. I like coming back and helping. So
That's good.
you guys are cool.
That's good. And where are you going to school again?
I went.
East Tennessee State.
Yeah. East
Yeah.
Tennessee. Yes, sir.
That's cool.
I like it over there. Nothing against tech. I need to get away from home.
Oh, I understand that completely. I went 2 years to Tech and then transferred to UT Knoxville. I was there for 2 years, and then law school there too. So, yeah, I understand about being at home and being away.
Where did you say you went to law school?
UTK, UT Knoxville. You wouldn't happen to have a Coca-Cola up here for a swig of it, would you? Nah, don't worry about it. So tell me your name again.
Nathan Longfellow.
That's what I thought. I didn't want to mess up.
No, you're good. You're good. You know, when you get up here in front of everybody, everything's kind of
There you go.
hit or miss. brain kind of shrinks up a little bit.
I know. A little panic goes
Yeah.
on. Oh no, we're not gonna let Maribel up here. Oh, hey, Tony.
Hi, Chairman X.
Boy, it feels good.
Chairman Emeritus.
It feels good.
Nathan, I asked the president's office to track down parking pass. So they're gonna ask if they can email it. They're gonna email it and they'll print it. So that's what we're doing. So hopefully in a few minutes I'll know something about it. Trying to get a parking pass.
Who is this? Oh yeah. Sounds good. Well, I hope I don't do one.
Well, if you do, you know how to talk your way out because you are in charge.
Yeah, I feel in charge.
You look in charge with that blue, nice black suit on.
I've got my
Your
Trump tie.
Ronald Reagan tie.
Trump tie, baby.
Your Ronald Reagan tie. I'm surprised you wasn't paid for a check for an appointment
With whom?
with Mr. Trump.
I missed out.
The big Republican, big Democrat, big independent you are.
I've been independent for 32 years. I don't know how to be anything else.
So the next time I have a conference call with Mr. Trump, I'm gonna float your name out.
Well, tell him I'm not interested.
You'd
when
be
you
a
float
good,
it.
you'd be a good Secretary of the Interior.
Wow.
You would.
How about EPA?
No, we're gonna do away with that.
I know you are.
No, I've suggested in the last conference call that we do away with that.
Are you on this program this morning?
No, I'm just going to deliver a message to Nathan.
That's fine.
And you're on the program, Names and Faces.
There we go. See you, Fred.
Hey, too much water with this one. Huh? He still blames me for the time the other counselors who are unruly and and evil set his hat up the flagpole. I had
They
nothing.
sent your hat up.
It was a baseball cap.
It was not. It was one of the big floppy safari hats.
I don't remember that.
I was
We
so
had some
mad.
good
I
times.
wasn't involved in it.
Do you
but
want
he
me to tell him
swore
what I
was.
did to you?
No.
Okay. That usually ends that
You
conversation.
were mean that day.
No.
I cried for 2 days because of
You deserved it, every bit of it.
it. I cried for 2 days. My
should.
ego was warped.
I'm going to tell him, and you should shed a single tear right
See,
now.
my ego was warped because of that. I almost was working. I had my resignation written out. I, Barney Fife.
Oh man, that was so much fun. So what time do you kick it off?
Whenever they get all settled in.
Time capsule. Wouldn't been up
What
no
time do you
cold.
have? It doesn't start at 10:30.
Yes, sir.
10:37.
Check over. Go for it.
All right, Boys State.
Wait just a second. He's turning it on. See if you got it now.
All right, Boys State. Boys Staters. Oh, come on, guys. Boys Staters. There you go. All right, this morning I'd like to introduce our first speaker this morning. He was elected to the bench in 1984 for the 13th Judicial District, served his circuit for 30 years, retiring in 2014. Judge Maddox is also the former Boys State chairman, serving as chairman for 37 years. Judge Maddox has been a driving force behind the success of the Tennessee Boys State program and continues to serve the program as a trustee. Please welcome Judge John Maddox.
Hey, thanks, Matthew. Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much, Nathan. I appreciate it very much. And Nathan, by the way, is the Chief Justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court here at Boys State, and he will serve as Chief Justice right on through Thursday afternoon when your new Chief Justice is elected. And I appreciate the introduction that he gave. My mother would have appreciated that introduction, and my father would have believed it. But anyway, it's fun to be around Nathan. He's a good man and a good leader. I'm here to talk to you about something that can change your life in a positive way forever. And I'll just tell you about a couple things that I did in my life and how it changed my life. One of them was that I had an opportunity to work for a United States congressman, and I worked for him for 7.5 years. He had 26 counties in his district, and during that time, my job was to keep up with the names of the people in all the communities and all of the small communities. I attended over 1,000 open meetings with him, and during that time, I learned and remembered the names and faces of almost 1,000 people. And if I can do that, I assure you that you can do that. And then at Boys State, early on in my career as a speaker at Boys State, I stood right there on the stage and called the names of over 100 delegates. And the way I did that was that I got the photographer to give me the headshots of all of the delegates in these three cities right here on the front. And then I memorized the names of, 3 or 4 delegates up in the balcony. I couldn't tell who they were, but I knew their names and called them, that sort of thing. And so I would call one of the delegates' names right here on the front row, and the guy beside him would be, elbowing him, and I'd say, "Well, Mr. Smith, why are you elbowing him?" And the delegate would jump, and I'd say, "Your name is Smith, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Stand up so everybody can see. This is Mr. Smith." And it was a lot of fun. But what I'm telling you is that this business of remembering names and faces is a very important thing. Your life will change for the better, and you'll be a more recognized individual if you do remember names and faces. And one thing to keep in mind is that the sweetest sound that an individual can hear is their own name. So if you meet somebody and get their name and you go through this process and you don't see them for 6 months, and then at the end of that 6 months you see them again, you call their name, they will really be pleased that you remember them. They'll be pleased that you know that you knew their name. Now, we enjoy life through the friends that we have. If I can have you tell me who your friends are, and I know who your friends are, then I know what kind of person you are. And I'm looking around this room, I see a lot of people that want to be friends of the other delegates here, and I commend you on doing that. You knew what my name was last night and then today. We'll talk about how to remember my name. A lot of you can't remember my name, but when I get through here in just a few minutes, it may be difficult for you to forget my name. Now, I'm going to show you a slideshow here that's giving you some information about what you need to be able to do this process. And it's not magic, and when I get through with it, I think you'll understand it. Why do you remember, and why do you want to remember names and faces? There's several reasons. One, you want to impress the person that has that name. They've given it to you. Sometime later, you see them again, you call their name, they will be impressed. You want to influence them. If you're running for public office and you know all the names of the folks that are going to be there at the get-together, you give them a hard handshake and tell them that you know what their name is by calling them by their name. You will influence them to be your friend. You want to remember names and faces to be able to communicate whatever business you're in. If you're an attorney or you're a businessman, you're a salesperson, whatever you are, you'll be able to communicate with people a lot easier if you know what their name is and they know that you know what their name is. And you want to be able to remember names and faces so you can sell yourself, your product, or your ideas. And then finally, to create and maintain friendships. Here at Boys State, you are a selected person from across the state. Your school and your counselors told us that you are a leader in your school and that you're somebody that's going to need to be reckoned with in the future, a true leader in the future. And so we thank you for being here, but we know that you're going to make a big difference in the world as you go forth. Now, excuse me, the question is, how smart do you have to be to do this? You don't have to be smart at all, because I'm an example of how that is. You don't have to be an Einstein to be able to do this. But if I can do it, you certainly can do it. My challenge to you is that by noon Wednesday, you know the name of every delegate in your city. Use this process that we're talking about, remembering names and faces, and learn the names of all of those delegates in your city by noon Wednesday. I think we have one city that's 28 delegates, another city that's almost 34 or 5.
but you should go to work right away and go to work with your friends in your city and all of the delegates in your city, and you'll be glad that you know who they are, and that's my challenge to you today. And I want to see a show of hands. Can you do it? How many of you think you can do it? Absolutely. How many of you think you can't do it? That's fair. That's a fair number. I said, well, in the back, of course. I mean, you're in the back row. You might not be impressed, but anyway, you'll be able to do it as soon as we get through here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. There are 5 easy steps for being able to do this. The first step is that you need to be interested. And if you're not interested in something, you know you're not going to be able to do it. The second step is to get the name. What is the name of that delegate? What is the name of that person that you want to remember for the rest of your life? Repeat the name over and over. We'll talk more specifically about all 5 of these areas. Associate the name with a mental image. Excuse me. And finally, write the name down. You may be able to get a directory of the delegates who are here at Boys State. I don't know whether you're still doing that or not, but if they do that, you can use that to your advantage. And if they don't, get a little notepad and write them down. Now, there's an acronym so that you can remember all of these 5 steps. INRAW. Interest, repeat. Interest, get the name, repeat, associate the name with something that you can remember, and finally write it down. So you don't have to take notes here today. You know what the 5 steps are. And I would tell you, excuse me, that you need to do the steps in order. If you go straight to the association, it's not going to work. So do the steps in order. All right, so the first thing is to be interested. You know yourself, if you're not interested in something, you're not going to be a success at that. If you go out for football and you don't have any interest in that, or you go out for a sport, you don't have any interest for that, you're not going to be any good. But if you are interested, then that will get your attention, and it'll make you able to do this process. So number 1 is to be interested. Without interest, nothing happens. What is it that interests you? For instance, you may be interested in a sport, or there may be something else that you're interested in. I'm not trying to tell you what to do and what not to do. So be interested is the first step. The second step is to get the name. So you listen to what the person tells you. How many times have you been introduced to someone? Somebody introduced me, and they'd say to you, I want you to meet John Preston. And you say, oh yeah, glad to meet you. You have no idea what my name is. So you stop and say, no, wait just a minute. What was that name again? John Maddox. And you've got the name then. That's the step number 2 that you do, is to get the name. Excuse me. Listen to what's said at the introduction time. Ask to repeat the name. Even though you may have heard it, ask the person to repeat their name. Ask them how to spell their name. We'll get into that in just a second. And then inquire about the origin of your name. Where did it come from? Where your folks come from? Where the relatives came from? Any information that you can get so that you can use that, getting the name aspect of this. The third step is to repeat the name. When you do this, you can say it out loud. You can say, John Maddox, I'm glad to meet you. And then we're talking, and all the time we're talking, you're saying to yourself mentally, but not out loud, John Maddox, John Maddox, John Maddox. And so you're looking at me in the face, and you're trying to find out, what you're trying to do is use my name emblazoned on the face that you're looking at, and you're learning that face. And in a minute or 2 after that, you're able to come up with being able to associate that face with that name. So you repeat the name over and over. You say it out loud, you say it silently, and again, you say it over and over. Take the time to do it. You talk to somebody for 3 minutes, you can say their name mentally to yourself, excuse me, for 100 times. And if you do that, it's going to be hard for you to forget the face, the facial part of that person's personality. When you get that, and I've told you earlier, do these first 3 steps in order first. And if you would, also, this 4th one is a fun one to do, and that is to associate the name with a mental picture. And the way you do that is to do steps 1 through 3. And then your goal is when you see this face again, you're going to be able to see the mental image that you have put on this face. And I'll talk to you. You're going to associate something that is on the face of the person that you're talking to or you're meeting. Study the person, study their facial features, their height, weight, and other features, and associate the name. And that's the most important part of this. And by the way, the sillier the association that you make when you look at this person, the more you're going to be able to remember that name and that face. Use your imagination, be silly, and do the best you can with it. Now, let's use a name here. That's my name, and I'll give you an idea or two about how you can remember my name. Number one, the first name, John. I don't know what you're going to use as something to impress you with my first name, John, but whatever you want to use, the sillier that it is, the better that the association works. You've already said my name over and over 100 times. You know what my face looks like. And now it's time to connect that visual that you're going to see the next time you see me, and you're going to connect it with something. And here, that's a start. Anybody here not know what that is? Raise your hand. Good Tennesseans, okay, all right. And so then the next name, the next part of the name is Maddox. And I don't, how many delegates do we have here from Shelby County? Raise your hand. Several. Okay, I see you throughout the group. In the Peabody Hotel, they had a restaurant in that Peabody Hotel several years ago that was called the Ducks, D-U-X. And they called it that because they had ducks that live on the top floor of the Peabody Hotel. And at a certain time in the morning, they would put the ducks on the elevator and bring them down to the lobby, and the ducks would climb into the pool with a sprinkling pool of water, and they'd stay there all day. They'd come around and feed them. Then at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, they'd load the ducks back up on the elevator and take them back up to their nighttime abode. And so make sure that guy's okay. Oh, okay, I thought there was something wrong there. Anyway, that's how you can remember that name. And I got another name here. How about Mark Burnett? Is he here? Is Mark here? Do we know? I guess not. We'll go ahead with Mark. Oh yeah, and the first part of the ducks is Mad Ducks. You can do something else if you wanted to, Mad Dog, Mad Ducks, whatever you want. But make that association, and then that association will stay with you for a long time. Now, the next name that I want to use this for is Mark Burnett. Mark Burnett is, as you already know, the director of this program. He's responsible for, although the American Legion sponsors this program, and Judge McKenzie is the chairman, the person who's boots on the ground and has the ultimate responsibility for you guys is Mark Burnett. And he is a really accomplished man. He has been the vice president of student affairs here at Tennessee Tech for like 27, 28 years. And he has been the Boys State director for, 15 or 16 years, he told us the other night. And he was an athlete. You can tell by looking at him what a great athlete he is. He scored the first basket in the Evelyn Center that you all are going to have the inaugural ceremony in, and which you, here we go, stand right here. We were just talking about you. And so how many years have you been director?
16.
16 years, director of the program. And as I indicated to you, he's responsible for you, and he's doing a great job. He and his staff are top notch. He scored the very first basket in the basketball game that took place at the Evelyn Center, which you'll go in, and we'll have the graduation ceremonies there. You'll do your Jacksonians, or you'll do your who against
All-Star game.
All-Star game and that sort of thing. And so he scored the very first 2-point bucket in that game, and Tennessee Tech beat Vanderbilt 72-71. Was that it? And so he was quite a star. He's also the only person in the United States to be elected as captain of his basketball team for 5 consecutive times. As a freshman, he was elected captain, and then he had an injury, and so he was redshirted his freshman year, and then for the next 4 years, he was also elected captain. So he is one special guy, and if you get a chance to spend any time with him, it's a treat. I mean, it's always fun, and we always have stories to tell on each other, and I won't let him have the microphone just yet. But if you want to remember his name, how are you going to remember the name Mark? Well, first of all, it's spelled, interestingly, M-A-R-C instead of M-A-R-K, and also you can think of his basketball ability and the fact that he was able to hit the mark with that basketball shot of his, a fall-away basketball shot that couldn't be blocked. And then you know that he's basketball, and he would hit that net and burn the net when he shot that basketball. So you got it now. We're not going to be able to forget you, Mark. Mark Burnett, what a great American. Let's give him a big hand. What do you say? So now you know that you have step number 5. Write it down, carry a small notepad, use the directory if they have one here this year, consult your ebook website, and the thing you need to keep in mind is to practice. I couldn't walk out on the stage and learn 100 names unless I practiced. The more you practice, the easier this gets. The easier it gets, the more it's second nature. You'll automatically do this, and you will be able to impress people. They'll think you're a magician, or how did you know all of that? So the 5 then the 5th step is to carry a small notepad, use the roster, practice, practice, practice. 5 easy steps. Be interested, get the name, repeat the name, associate the name, and write it down. And the acronym for doing this is NRAW. It has your 5 steps, and that's how you too can amaze your friends and help yourself in terms of whatever endeavor that you want to do. I congratulate you for being a delegate to Boys State. Encourage you to work hard. Learn as much as you can during this week. It will affect your life positively for the rest of your life. And thank you very much.